Comic relief is just around the corner. Will you be doing something funny for money? Well, a number of brave, or I think it's more like mad, people across the country are getting involved with Stand Up If You Dare. It's a project that sees real people, i.e. non-comedians, try their hand at becoming a stand-up comedian. Joining me now are three of the representatives from the three counties, Ben, Jack and Matt. Good afternoon to all of you.
Good afternoon.
Afternoon.
Go on, tell me a joke.
Go on, Ben.
Okay. I went to the hairdresser's yesterday, had my hair cut. He said, "You've got very fine hair." I said, "Thanks, you've got a lovely smile."
There we go.
It's
That's what we
fine.
need.
We can do better. This is a really brave thing that you're all doing. I'm obviously very unfair to turn around and say, tell me a joke. But it's an incredibly brave thing to do. I, day in, day out, speak live on air. I couldn't do stand-up comedy. The thought of standing up on a stage in front of a heckling audience. So you have my complete admiration. As I said in the introduction there, whether it's brave or mad, I'm not entirely sure. Matt, you're from Stevenage.
Yes.
Why did you go into this?
It's something I've always actually wanted to do.
Really?
I trained as an actor. I only graduated in July, so I'm kind of still new on the acting thing, so I thought, I'm already going up one impossible ladder, why not try and climb a second at the same time? It's just something I've always wanted to do, and when I saw this, someone sent me the link to it, and I thought, well, it's a deadline, it'll actually make me write something and perform it, and then after that, then who knows what will happen. So
have you got a head start because you're used to being on stage, you're used to getting a response, or not, as the case may be?
I think that to some extent there's a head start in the fact that just in terms of speaking in front of people, some of the guys that are taking part are doing this because it's something they never thought they would be able to do, and so they are trying to conquer a fear. But a lot of the people have kind of got experience, at least, of standing in front of a crowd and talking, so that helps. But I know many actors that would never do stand-up if you ask them to. Do
your friends or perhaps your mum think you're funny? Have you been told in the past that you can crack a good joke? Yeah, that's kind of all where it starts off, really. I think you start, your friends think you're funny, which then makes you think you're funny, which is never a good thing. And I'm always the one that will kind of never take things seriously, and I kind of realised when I was about in year probably 10 at school doing my GCSEs that I could be funny, which got me out of got me in with the cool kids and made my grades suffer. But who's laughing now? Ben, you're from Bishop Stortford.
Yep.
You're nearly 50 years old, and
I'm 28.
Yes, sorry, I forgot that. Part of comedy, I think, is life experience and being able to observe.
Yep.
Is that part of what appeals to you in comedy?
Possibly, because I'm one of those people who can never seem to take being serious very seriously. So whenever there's anything...
Good line.
Yep, I just made that one up. I'd also like to apologise for that joke I did at the start of the show. That was... Matt gave me that in the reception out there. He said, it's a really good one, Ben. This will really go down the
I feel bad because I didn't get it, which is why there was a silence.
Possibly because it wasn't a joke. That's funny. It was more of a kind of a sentence. But, I am knocking on a bit nowadays, and I've got all the way through my life by joking and mucking around. And I was just saying to my wife, funny thing happened on the way here today. We're in the car, and I said to her, the reason why I make jokes all the time is because I can't get through whole conversations without doing a joke. I can't ever face up to kind of proper things without making a joke. It's a way of avoiding reality and serious things. It is actually quite a defence mechanism. It's Completely.
one which I think I have as well.
Yeah.
I certainly had in my young years until I learnt that it basically annoyed people a little bit too often.
It does.
No, but until I realised that it was also okay to show how I was really feeling. But of course, there is a fine line, isn't there, between using it as a defence mechanism and basically getting a reputation of being really cynical and gnarly and old.
Yeah, I've probably got that reputation already. Being gnarly and old is going to give me the reputation of being gnarly and old. But I think I've been I don't know, I'm an optimistic cynic. Really, deep down inside, I'm very optimistic, and I do have a bright side, but it's underneath the dark layers.
And of course, another fine line that it's quite hard to tread is the line between being funny in every sentence and actually just coming across as sarcastic and almost, putting people down, which I know as a defence mechanism is basically you're trying to protect yourself, but it can come out wrong with other people. Have you learned over the years to balance that out?
Yep. Before I had children, I'd have been kind of nasty, spiteful, sarcastic, mean, and a bit kind of clever and trying to be funny all the time. But then when you have children, you change because you become a nicer person, I think, and your nice side comes out. So I've given all of that up now. I'll leave that to the youngsters now to be spiteful.
But also, what children do is they strip you away, don't they? They don't take any rubbish. They don't want any pretense. They don't want any defence mechanism. They just want you.
Absolutely right. Yeah, and also they're not impressed by you impressing other people. You're just their dad. Like, for example, we were on Look East yesterday or the other day, and I said to my son last night, I said, "Oh, do you want to watch me on TV again on iPlayer?" And he said, "No, I saw earlier on." I said, "Well, why not?" He went, "Well, I see you all the time. Why would I see you on TV?"
Your dad?
Yeah, exactly, yeah. That's my boy. Very proud of him.
He is quite clearly too cool for school.
Yep.
And Jack Squires, you're 19.
I am.
You're from Baldock.
Yes.
What brought you to this competition?
Well, doing stand-up is something that I actually have hopes of doing more of in the future. And a friend sent me this link, and I figured I may as well throw myself in the deep end, see if I can do it in front of a big crowd. So just decided to give it a shot, really.
Hopes of doing it in the future. Is this something you've tried to do in the past?
I've tried it once before at a small open mic night near where I lived, but it's quite a big step up from that, because when I did it, it turned out to be an audience of about 10 people, 9 of which were my friends, and the 10th was my dad. So it's quite a big step up from that. And the first time I actually did it, because it was a monthly thing, and the first time I went just to get the feel of it, and it was such a small venue and small people doing it that the guy who was organising it had to go through his address book on his phone and invite all his friends, who, by the way, didn't turn up. So the show started about 2 hours late because there was just no audience. That's quite big.
Isn't the skill, though, of being a stand-up, being able to put on a great show, whether you're performing to one man, possibly with his dog, or whether you're performing to 18,000 people at the O2?
Yeah, that's the thing. It is all about putting on a good show, which is what I hope to achieve by doing this in Colchester as well. I hope we can give the audience who are obviously coming along for a good cause, hopefully we can give them something to enjoy.
Of course, the benefit of doing those shows where you only had 9 people plus your dad is it's less people to heckle you. Did you have to have a bit of a thick skin to get up on stage?
I do, yes, because I'm actually incredibly nervous to begin with, so I was so nervous at one point towards the end I completely froze up for about 5 minutes without being able to say anything, so it does take...
That's funny.
Yeah, I was going to say, that's conceptual.
It got laughs.
Hi, I'm Jack, and I'm not going to talk for a minute.
Yeah. Did your dad heckle you?
He didn't, but someone else did.
Oh.
I made a joke about...
Did your dad beat them up?
Yeah.
No.
Did someone heckle your dad?
That's the question.
Everyone just started yelling at everyone.
Oh, no.
I made a joke about rock stars, and this guy, I called them, lazy or something, and he just, shouted. He was like, "Excuse me?" And I said something to him, and he took off his glasses and just went, "Do I look like one now?" And that was it. He had nothing else to say.
Turned out he was John Bon Jovi.
Yeah. That's exactly. I made a joke about him being John Bon Jovi.
It was Elvis Costello. He said, "No, you don't look anything like him now. Put him back on."
You have all been on boot camp. You're going to tell me all about how to be funny on stage. I think it's a real skill. You'll be able to tell me all about it after the news headlines. You're listening to BBC Three Counties Radio. Here's the award-winning Adele. We're talking comic relief today with Matt Lee Steer. He's from Stevenage, Ben Hewer from Bishop Stortford, and Jack Squires from Baldock. You may not know them, but they could be the next big thing, because they're all involved in this competition. It's not really a competition, this event for comic relief. People from across the country put themselves forward to learn how to become stand-up comedians. You're all going to be performing, is it Colchester, on the night of comic relief? Mm-hmm. So you're part of the BBC East region. You're representing the 3 counties, so we'll obviously be hoping that you do well on the night. And you've just been to boot camp.
Yes.
A la X Factor.
Something like that, yes.
What did you learn there, Matt?
We met up with Jack Milner, who kind of led the workshop. He's a comic and a writer, and he's been doing this for years. And during the throughout the day, he looked at material that we already had, and he taught us different techniques on how to write either one-liners or how to write an observational joke. So
for example, give me something that you went to him with, and what did he do with it? Make it clean.
No, yes. The cleanness was already kind of stipulated before we got there. So it was because I have a couple of kind of stories that I tell, and one of them was more realising that maybe though a story may be real, it might not be funny in terms of a stand-up tale.
So what was the sort of the rub of the story?
It was basically kind of a long-winded kind of story that involved me ringing up a competition from like Teletext or CFAX when I was a child and misinterpreting the instruction of spelling any difficult words. I actually just spelt a word that I thought was difficult. It didn't have any relevance to the
that's quite
to
cute.
my name and address. I was only 6 at the time, and but it was the word. It just didn't get a laugh, and it was maybe kind of exaggerating the word or changing it, kind of sprucing up the joke a little bit to make it funnier.
But that's really tough. So Jack, what's his surname? Sorry,
Jack Milner.
So Jack Milner sits there and says, "Sorry, Matt, that's not funny."
Yeah, well, by that point, I'd realised it wasn't funny when no one laughed. So it was all right, but everyone did so well with the material that they kind of brought in, and there was laughs, and then there was silences. So it to some extent we were just given on the audience reaction. We were given our notes from that and what was funny and what was not funny.
Jack, what did you take out of it? What was your one tip that the other Jack gave you?
The one tip he gave me mostly was to be more honest, I would say, because the thing was, I told a joke and I told it as if we were at a bigger audience, and it was a joke about school, and I said, you can try this out if you're still in school. And he said I should be more honest because I shouldn't have said that, obviously, if there was no one there who was at school.
And you really say that? You're lying again, aren't you? You're making that up. Be more honest.
Harsh.
See, he's the funny one. So yeah, that was it. He just said to be more honest and always try and relate to your audience in an honest way, and just make sure that you make it clear who you are when you tell your jokes.
Ben, did he say you were way too cynical and sarcastic?
No, he said I was way too funny. He said I should be on the other course downstairs where people are trying to tone down their comedy effects. But the best bit for me of the whole day was when the lunch arrived, and we were told so many times that this is the BBC approved supplier of food, and the van rolled up outside, and on the side of the van it said thoroughbred caterers.
Oh dear.
That was quite hysterical.
Not good in the current climate. All three of you're very different personalities, you're different ages. Sorry, Ben, I just had to mention that again.
Once again,
from different parts of our patch as well. Have you got a sense in your own minds of the kind of comedians you want to be, i.e. observational? There are some comedians out there who simply stand for an hour and give one-liners without any link to each other, and they're hilarious. I've forgotten his name, an American guy who I saw some years ago in the Dominion in London, who that's all he does. He stands there and he does these play on words, one-liners, and he's brilliant. What kind of comedian are you going to be, Matt?
To be honest, that's one of the biggest things about when starting is kind of finding out, and you find out by going through your material and finding and making it funny, and where you might think you're a great storyteller, and when you cut it down properly and edit it, you realise that there's not much of a story, but it's a great one-liner and stuff like that. So finding out the kind of comedian that I want to be is kind of part of the process, and I think we'll hopefully find out on the 14th of March. Colchester Arts Centre tickets are available.
What about you, Ben? What kind of comedian are you going to be?
I've always hoped that I could be the new Paul Squires or Kelly Monteith. These were two very...
Kelly Monteith? Wasn't he Canadian?
I think so, yeah. He had a very... Maybe it was funny at the time, but just...
voice of my childhood.
Yeah, I know. It's just the most unpopular comedian I could think of at the time. But no, I think if I could... I don't see myself as being a comedian, and I can't ever imagine earning a living as a comedian. But if I could, I'd like to be the comedian that hides away in his little garret writing jokes for other people and letting other people do the delivery. If I can just be tucked away in a little house somewhere with a pen and a pad, that would do for me, as long as I could be funny in the process.
Jack, had we had this conversation 5 or 6 years ago, we would have been looking at a possible career that could see you playing small arenas. You might come to the Corn Exchange in Bedford and you might play to 700-800 people at the Alban Arena. Comedy now, they're playing to larger audiences than some of the biggest rock bands in the world. They're doing 14, 15, 20 nights at the O2 and grossing £3 or £4 or £5 million on their tour. Are you interested in the money?
Not at all, I would say, because the reason I got into it was because when I was at school, I was the one that always used to make people laugh, and even the teachers would make a note of that. And I once had a friend who told me that he didn't think anything that left my mouth didn't end in a punchline. So I got into it for that. I just enjoyed making people laugh, and I just think it's a good thing to do, because my whole philosophy on it is when someone laughs, like no matter how they're feeling beforehand, when they genuinely laugh, they're genuinely happy for that minute, and if you can make someone happy, you may as well do it. So that's why I want to get into it, because I feel the people that play the big arenas, that's not a good platform for comedy, because it's far too distant between the performer and the audience. I think comedy should be done in smaller venues and a more sort of personal level.
Ben, do you admire the Michael McIntyres, the Jimmy Carrs?
Not really, because it's not my kind of comedy. I think I'm more of an absurdist or a surrealist. I like people like Spike Milligan and Vic Reeves and people that are just silly. I just imagine these guys. I mean, Spike Milligan was really quite old when he died in his 80s, but he still had the humour of a 6-year-old kid, and I think the fact that he'd kept his little 6-year-old with him all those years, I admire that.
How about Steer, Hewer and Squires? That's got a ring to it.
Yeah, it's got a few vowels in there and constant.
Who wants to remind me where the actual performance is on the Friday night? So Comic Relief is the 14th of March, isn't it? That's Friday night. Where's it going to be?
Colchester Arts Centre.
So it's the 15th, I think, of March. Sorry,
15th of March is Comic Relief, but we're performing on the 14th, which is the night before, at Colchester Arts Centre, and tickets are available on the website there. We're also looking for donations as well and sponsors to sponsor us to actually do.
How can people get in touch with you for that?
That's on my one is on a Red Nose Day giving page, so it's my.rednoseday.com/sponsors/Matt Lee Steer, or my Twitter page has a link to it.
Yes. What's your
if you search Matt Lee Steer on Twitter, and then hopefully if I tweet you guys and you can retweet me and people can find it.
Matt Lee Steer. What about you,
mine's much better because it's not double-barreled, not as long, so just go to Comic Relief and put in Ben Hewer, BenHewer, and hopefully you'll find me.
And what about you, Squires?
Like you said, you can find me on the Red Nose page, the Stand Up If You Dare team, Jack Squires, search for that, or find me on Twitter, Jack Squires31, and the link's on there.
You lied about your age. You were told to be honest. You're 19. Jack, Ben, Matt, in all honesty, you have my complete admiration. I couldn't do this. I was invited to do it this year. The Tring Fringe Festival said, "Do you want to come and learn to be a stand-up comic?" And I sort of rejected the invitation. I'm full of admiration. I wish you lots of luck, and I hope you all break legs and whatever parts of your body you need to on Thursday, the 14th of March in Colchester. We'll be keeping a very close eye on all three of you.
Thank you.
Thanks very much.
Thank you.
What a brilliant thing to do. Do seek them out on Twitter and, of course, on the Comic Relief website. They need your sponsorship because, of course, this is all about doing something funny for money. That is the whole point of Comic Relief. And next week, you'll hear from Lenny Henry on this show. This is Joe Cocker, his new single, Fire It Up.
She's sitting staring out the window, trying to figure out just what to do. Last time that she gave her heart away.